A few days ago, when again I was thinking back on my career, my path that I chose, there are several stories which made me think, wow, I've really not done things the way most people have done. I've not chosen the normal path, but I share quite some elements of my path with many other people, clinical developers like me, who are in the game and in this profession for over 20 years. Nobody told me 25 years ago, when I decided to move into the industry for a very specific reason, what is needed. Nobody handed me a map. I needed to find everything and learn everything on the job. I needed to find out which questions make most sense to ask. I needed to find out by myself, and sometimes learning it the hard way, having setbacks, asking then the right question. 25 years ago, when I had done already some typical academia curriculum, I was on the verge of becoming a professor and going in this direction. That is, yeah, I was just engaging in this, and I had to decide, do I want to pursue this route or not? Do I want to stay in science hardcore, or do I want something else? And I found out quite fast that yes, I did want something else. I did not want to stay in one lane, which would focus me on one specific, I exaggerate now, molecule and one folding of one molecule that would bring me maybe into, if I'm lucky, into a contact with a pharmaceutical company on the long run if this molecule ever works. I've done clinical research at the time as investigator back in the late 90s. I included patients into clinical studies in the oncology department of the med school in Hanover. I knew how to run clinical studies as an investigator. I understood patients, I understood the diseases in oncology, but also in other disciplines. I learned that from scratch. I studied medicine. I went into research, tried to understand immune genetics, which I have studied in Paris for 3 years. I went into clinical microbiology and learned everything that was to learn about clinical microbiology. What is the use? How are the diagnostics made? How are the diagnostics run? And so many more things. I also got first contact with how to lead, or better, how to not lead. And at one point, with all my experience that I had gathered at that time, I was confronted with a question that was always a driving element in my life. How do I help people best? How do I really amplify my own personal impact? And instead of running behind the events as I did in oncology, instead of just taking the tools that are handed to me because they are available, because others have developed them, I wanted to be in the place where I could develop these tools myself. At that time, the thought about a profession called clinical developer didn't exist. People were physicians in the industry. Yuck. That's mostly how people were thinking. And if you're in the industry, then you do marketing, and that's something no, a physician would not do. I was in contact with all these preconceptions, and most of the time they are misconceptions. makes me laugh thinking back of these and how I have changed also in my understanding of both sides. And there are more than just two sides to this specific topic. So I joined the industry and I thought, huh, well, I've done clinical studies. I ran clinical studies as investigator in the industry. I know how to run these. I know how to do this. I know clinical development. I couldn't have been more wrong. And at the industry, I went back to school. I was taught how clinical studies are run as a sponsor, which is very different. And being an investigator within a pharma sponsored clinical trial is another level. So I went back to the bench, I went back to learning and learning how to execute clinical studies as clinical director, monitoring, learning about the safety regulations, learning about everything in the interactions with the operational team, with the regulatory team, and with the biostat team, how to write protocols, how to submit the protocols to ethics committees and to internal review boards, like in the US, how different countries deal with the same type of information, what questions come back, how to address these questions, and then how to execute these trials, which insurances are needed, what is allowed, what are the do's, what are the don'ts. All very important aspects that we need to consider in running clinical trial, all operational aspects. Even the monitoring today I would call operational because you use your knowledge to execute a clinical study. I was actually jumping into learning the execution of clinical trials as a physician in the industry. That was a great foundation. I discussed with clinical operations how to move forward. I collected the data. I asked my questions. Nobody taught me that. I needed to get this from osmosis, from diffusion. Actually, I believed for a long time that excellent work would be sufficient and would speak by itself. That was wrong. If you want to be seen in pharma and move forward and grow, you need to actively reach out to those who have understood the strategy part. In the beginning, for the first few years, of course, this is what you're expected to do. But if you want to grow further, grow beyond that, it's not enough. I experienced at some point a serious professional setback. At the time, it felt truly devastating. I was trying to orient and ask myself questions in one, two, three directions until I could grasp myself and focus. And when I focused, several questions came up very strongly. Why are certain development paths chosen and others not? Why are certain risks called acceptable and others not? Why do some professionals progress faster than others? What are the skills that nobody teaches? We have another update that we would like to share with you about Atoma. The course orientation on clinical development of vaccines is available now independently and in a package, which upon request from multiple sites we made available. We now have July a group course mentoring available twice a month. You can participate in the conversations that we have with me being present or another expert. Most of the time, it will be me as well, on top of maybe other experts, and have conversations on topics that are specifically addressed in the course. So when you stumble upon some questions that you have while going through the course material, you can ask the questions in this group mentoring. We have another program that we're just starting now, which is the signature mentoring. You will have the possibility to book it for 3 months, 6 times 1 hour, or 6 months, 12 times 1 hour, 12 hours, or 12 months. During that time that you book, you will have access to all courses. So at the moment, at the time being, there's only one course available, which is the clinical development of vaccines orientation course. But there will be more courses coming up. And you will have access during the time of your signature mentoring to all this material online. The courses are in English. And yeah, well, I look forward to seeing you at Artema Academy in the group discussions or the signature mentoring. If you want to learn more about the signature mentoring, one-on-one mentoring, you can book a call with me. Go to the Artema Academy page and click on book a free call. And then we can talk during this call about your needs and assess whether or not it makes sense to engage in this mentoring for you and for us. Because I want to learn something as well, as you wish, of course, to learn or to understand. So we're absolutely happy to have these free mentoring calls, half an hour, to assess whether more is needed, to what extent, which program fits best in your current situation, and maybe in a later situation. You can always prolong these calls. What most people do, from what I've seen already, is 6 months, but you're of course free to choose whatever you want. I look forward to seeing you at Artema Academy. Have a wonderful day. My name is Frederick Wittke, co-founder of Artema Academy.